Our Advent journey continues into the lion's den. This is the story of Daniel. After they heard Jeremiah's letter, God's people, far away from home in another land, did what God had told them to do. They built houses, they planted gardens, and they had families. But they also remembered God's promise that he would bring them back home one day. So even though it was hard, and even in the times when the people didn't listen to God, God did not forget his people. So he sent another prophet to remind them that he was with them. And this prophet's name was Daniel. Daniel was very smart and also very brave. He was an exceptionally hard worker. He loved God and listened to him. And even when it was hard in this new country far away from home, Daniel had a special skill that God had given him to use. Just like Joseph had back in Egypt, Daniel knew how to interpret dreams, to understand what different dreams meant. Daniel's character and skills were a winning combination, so it was no surprise that the king, at that time called Darius, gave Daniel an important job as one of the leaders of the whole country. Daniel might have been far from home, but King Darius gave him a lot of power. The other leaders got jealous of Daniel pretty quickly. They didn't want him to be in power over them, so they started plotting a way to get rid of him. And this was their plan. Everyone knew that Daniel loved God and that he prayed to him every day. So they decided to get King Darius to make a new law so that everyone could only pray to the king. Now, of course, you know that this was a bad idea because people should only really pray to God. And Daniel knew that too. But the king didn't. And according to this new law, if people didn't pray to the king, they'd be thrown into a lion's den and become a lion's dinner. So when King Darius heard this idea, he liked how important it made him seem. He had no clue the other leaders were trying to hurt Daniel. He signed the paper, and just like that, Daniel's life was in danger. Daniel heard about the new law, but he prayed to God anyway, just like he always had. He went upstairs, he knelt down in front of his open window and prayed, just like he had done every day. The bad guys saw Daniel praying, and so they rushed and told King Darius. They reminded him that he couldn't change the law that he had made. And Darius realised what had happened. And he was devastated. But he couldn't do anything. So the men brought Daniel and threw him into the lion's den. But even as they did, Darius said something to Daniel that sounded almost like a prayer. I hope God rescues you. The king didn't sleep at all that night. He was so nervous. The next morning he ran straight to the lion's den and shouted, Daniel, has your God rescued you from the lions? Oh yes, Daniel answered. God was here protecting me the whole time. He shut the mouths of the lions. He saved me. King Darius was so happy that Daniel was alive. And when he saw that God had saved Daniel, he put his trust in God too and told the whole country to do the same. Daniel wasn't the only one that God was using miles and miles from home, he was also using other prophets to get all kinds of people ready for his return. One day, God would come back to stay.